Hey everyone, this is Lisa from Life in Layouts. Today I pulled out Kellybell Designs Toyland Mania kit because I'm going to be working on the November blog challenge. I'll tell you a little bit more about that in just a minute. I'm going to be using the August 2010 sketch from Page Maps. And as you can see, I printed out my papers as well as embellishments, and I let the silhouette print and cut features do all of the work for me. I'm going to add my embellishments to my silhouette mat. I printed these out on a standard format printer. I'm going to send it over to the silhouette and then pull off the backing and reveal all of my embellishments. For this layout, I did print out the page starter as well as the titlelet, which are the larger pieces, and I'm going to be doing some layering with all of the other embellishments. I do have a tutorial linked below on how I build up my page starters. I love printing out these larger pieces that Kellybell has already designed for me and then adding dimension to them by layering them up. Once I get all of the embellishments off of my silhouette mat, I'm going to ink up all of the edges of the items that I printed that did not have a white border. These are the ones that are going to be stacked on top of my titlelet as well as my page starter. I'm doing a tone on tone, so I did have to pull out several of my inks. I line up these embellishments in the Silhouette software so that they match perfectly to the page starter as well as the titlelet. Then I'm going to use 1mm foam adhesive from scrapbook.com to layer up these pieces. There was a lot of layering on this layout, and it made me realize that I mainly have the strips from scrapbook.com. I'm definitely going to have to invest in some tiny squares because I did a lot of cutting. As I'm putting these down, let me just tell you a little bit about the blog challenge over on Kellybell's website. You have until November 30th to create a layout about Toy Story. This could be things like meet and greets, dinings, shows, sceneries, shopping, or even rides like I'm doing here. The layout does have to have 100% Kellybell products or freebies, and you must use a minimum of 3 Kellybell designs. This includes elements and papers. Like I said, you have until November 30th to upload your layout to the gallery, and everyone who participates will get a participation prize, and one random winner will be selected to receive a $10 gift certificate from Kellybell. I also want to tell you guys about the gallery over at Kellybell Designs. There is so much inspiration over on the website. I will link it below if you'd like to check it out. You can see what everyone else is doing for this blog challenge, as well as what everyone else is doing with the amazing collections over at Kellybell Designs. I did also pull in some foam adhesive for my title piece. So the word Toy Story and Mania are up on 1mm foam adhesive strips, and then the word Midway is up on my fun foam. The fun foam is about 2mm, so it does give it a little bit more dimension than the word Toy Story and Mania, which is something that I love because that really makes these digital elements pop off the page. By layering up these digital elements, it almost reminds me of those really old Jolee stickers. Do you guys remember those? I loved them back in the mid 2000s. There was so much dimension because they would layer 3 or 4 pieces of the same sticker on top of each other. And by adding the embellishments to these larger pieces, it gives that same design look. When digital creators use these digital elements, they're able to do the same type of thing by adding drop shadows. We have to actually create the shadows in our hybrid scrapbooking. There were some tiny pieces on this page starter. That little star as well as the duck bullseye were super tiny. And then when I added that orange flower down, I added it in the wrong spot, which I'm going to realize and move it up to where it's supposed to be. I slowed the video down here so that you can see all of that dimension that I added by using those foam adhesive strips. These 2 large pieces are going to be the main embellishments on my layout. I am going to add a few more pieces, and I'm going to start with this brown background paper. I am still trying to not use white paper as much as possible, and this brown paper I think was perfect with this very colorful paper as well as this really light wood grain. Now, I will let you know that I zoomed in so that I could show you all the details of putting together those page starters, and I forgot to zoom out. Luckily, I wasn't zoomed in too much, so you're going to be able to see a majority of things, but the rest of this video is going to be a tight shot. I did print the red paper directly on the wood grain, and I thought I was going to leave that, but when I looked back on the sketch, I realized that the red paper was supposed to span the 12 inches of the layout, and I'm still going to be able to make it look like it is 12 inches because I'm going to cover it up behind my photos as well as my embellishments. I also cut the paper much larger than I thought I was going to need because I wanted to make sure that I had enough. I decided to cut it down to 5 inches for each piece, so I have a total of 10 inches on the paper. Because I'm only able to print 8.5 by 11, that gave me a 1-inch border around 3 sides. So the paper meets in the middle, which is what I really like for a double page layout. I'm going to get both the top and bottom piece of this paper down on the layout, and then I'm going to bring in my photos. The photos on the left-hand side of the layout are photos that I actually took of myself and Eli on the ride. I'm going to bring in an 8x10 photo collage that I created using my Canva templates. I will link that below for you guys. These photos come from a blog. They were able to get some amazing photos of the Toy Story Mania queue with actually nobody in line, which I think is pretty amazing. The queue of this line is probably one of my favorites. It was designed to make you feel like a toy in Andy's room. Everything is oversized. There are huge Crayola crayons, a ton of toys to include the monkeys from A Barrel of Monkeys, as well as Tinker Toys and even Christmas lights. I had to make sure that I had all of that on my layout. And for the right-hand side of the layout, that is how I'm going to cover up that red strip of paper. I'm going to have it on the left and right-hand side of the layout, and then covering up the gap in the center with that 8x10 photo. I'm going to do the exact same thing on the left-hand side of the layout. For that side of the layout, I have a photo of myself and Eli right before the ride started, and then I have a photo of our end score, as well as the fact that I was the best in vehicle. So between the 4 of us, myself, Eli, and the 2 other people that were on the ride with us, I had the highest score. So I definitely had to capture that. And then I'm going to get the 8x10 photo down on the right-hand side of the layout. I wanted to make sure that the 8x10 photo was over far enough so that I could make sure I had enough space for this page starter. I didn't want it to get too lost because the photos are really busy. So I added the page starter down, and then I'm going to get the title down over on the left-hand side. Now, I did also print out several more embellishments because I didn't want just 2 embellishments on my layout. I needed a couple more clusters. So over on the left, I added the plates from the ride, as well as a tag that says final score, and eventually I'm going to add also the word winner. I then started to add the duck as well as the darts, and I thought about adding them to the top, but then I remembered that I did want to add quite a bit journaling, so I'm going to lower that in just a moment. For the plates, I did add 1 flat down to the layout. I used some 1mm foam adhesive as well as the fun foam. So those 3 plates are different heights. Then I'm going to add the tag down that says final score, and then also the word winner. And I did put that one up on some 1mm foam adhesive. Now, you guys know I love some bottle caps. For the circle elements from Kellybell Designs, if you print them out in a 1-inch diameter, they fit perfectly into these bottle caps. So right next to the plates, there was a little tag that says break those plates. Of course, I had to add that. Then I'm going to also add in the orange bottle cap that says pop the balloons, and it has balloons as well as the darts. And then for the red one, I'm going to add one that says aim for the high value targets. Like I said, I decided I would move those darts as well as the ducks down closer to the title piece so that I could add all of my journaling up in the more colorful paper. Over on the right-hand side of the layout, I am going to add another bottle cap, and this one says pull the string to fire. And then I decided to add one more tag that says beat that, since I did have the highest score in the vehicle. At the very end is when I realized that I was zoomed in very close, so you can see the full layout here. And then that is it for this video. Here is my final layout as well as some close-ups. I did do my journaling offline, and it says, "We never skip Toy Story Midway Mania because there's always a score to settle. The giant toys in the queue makes it feel like we are toys in Andy's room, and the trash talk starts before we even sit down. Eli was determined to steal the win this time, but I held on to that crown. We've ridden this 100 times, and it's always the same ride, but the competition makes it feel new every single time." And then I did add the date of September 16th, 2022 down by the plates on the left. All right, if you enjoyed this video, if you wouldn't mind giving me a thumbs up, I would really appreciate it. If you haven't done so already and you want to see more double page layout inspiration, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Thanks everyone for watching, and I hope that you have a scrappy day.